Yeah, so we can see like in the United States, we have some laws to promote this project. For example, in the New York City, we have local law 87s. And then in Hong Kong, we have technical guidelines on RCX, the retro commissioning. And we also have the training and registration scheme at the Green Building Council. So for the RCX measures, there are actually very minor measures that you can do to improve the performance of your buildings. For example, just to revise the control sequence, reduce equipment runtime, and optimize the air conditioning and something like that. So in general, it just has little disturbance to the current residents or tenants. So for example, for the management team, they would say like there would be limited or little complaints from all their customers. So that's why we just want to promote something that have low cost. Yeah. Yeah, but the problem is like through the years, the research and implementation of RCX is actually very limited compared to other energy efficient measures. So this is our preliminary research on the current status of the retro commissioning. So we could see like most of the research were actually done in the United States or Europe. So we have a very limited research on Asia or Hong Kong. But the problem is like Hong Kong is a metropolitan with a lot of buildings and most of them are very old. So there is an urgent need to improve the performance of the buildings in Hong Kong. So what we did is we want to explore the barriers and enablers to RCX adoption. So first we did a literature review to review all the indicators that influence the adoption of the retro commissioning. And then we did an interview with experts from the industries and also governments for in-person, online, semi-conducted interviews, because some of them have real retro commissioning project implementation experience. So that's why they can provide some first-hand insights. And then we shortlist the barriers and enablers. And after all the consolidation, we actually already conducted a focus group meeting and then questionnaire survey, but we're still consolidating and analyzing the data. So basically, we have long listed 16 barriers and 6 enablers from the literature review, and you can see that at least the enablers are actually very limited, and we have actually a lot of input from our experts. So after the after shortlisting, we have 20 barriers and 14 enablers. So basically, all those enablers came from the legal and regulation sector. Here is a list of the barriers. Maybe it's not very clear. I can introduce a little bit. So we have a huge group from financial aspect and knowledge aspect and manpower and information. And actually, most of them are about uncertainty. So this is, I think, the most of the problem or consideration when we promote something especially very new to people. And then for knowledge, it's because the whole industry, they are not very aware of this kind of new measures. If you talk with them of retrofit or renovation, maybe they're very familiar with it, but retro commissioning is just something new to them. So we just organize a lot of workshops, lectures to introduce these measures. And also, I can share a very interesting story, is that one of our experts said they organized, he's from the Green Building Council of Hong Kong, and he said they organized some workshops for the engineers from the industry. At the beginning, they were sent by their companies, but then later on, after 3 classes or 4, they just got more interested in it. I think it's just because when people get to know it, they will get interested in it. So, I mean, all the efforts, they are useful. Yeah. And then we have some manpower problem. You can see that in Hong Kong, it's a very efficient city, that people may be a little bit highly loaded, so they don't have actual accurate time for something new. So if you told your staff you had to do some new work, they will say, okay, I'm already fully loaded. And also there would be some complaints from other customers or other teams. And there's also communication problems between different teams, for example, between the management teams and also the technical teams. Because the management teams, they cannot understand the technical details. So if the technical teams already implemented some measures, the management teams may not be fully aware of it, and they cannot thus, therefore explain to their customers or other like tenants and everybody. So we try to explore some enablers to help. So actually, when we want to promote some energy efficient measures, the two, I would say, thresholds would be like 2C. Like one is a cost, and then another one is a code. So when you have the legal requirements, there would be like highly possible they would adopt it or implement it. Yeah, so actually you can say, like, compared to the barriers, we have actually limited relatively fewer enablers on the financial aspects. This is actually surprised us a lot, because we saw that people may need a lot of financial incentives, but actually they care more about knowledge. So they want to know it first, and then they would think about how to implement it, especially for the uncertainty part, because they don't know, for example, what they would pay for that. I mean, there was some cost, for example, obviously, but there will be some patent cost because maybe tenants will leave, you know. So so in reality, it's actually complex. That's why we conducted like interviews and focus group meetings. Yeah. And yeah, I just want to point out that maybe most of the barriers and enablers are interconnected. For example, we have limited time period, but also we have limited manpower. So if you want this staff do this kind of things in this time period, it's kind of a lot of pressure. So yeah, and next step, we will analyze actually the interconnections between different barriers and enablers, and continue to do some quantification work. Yeah, and by the end, we probably will develop a readiness index model that, based on these barriers and enablers, they can say that they can have a kind of check the box and say like whether our buildings is already ready to implement these measures. Yeah. So thank you. And any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Mengxue, for the excellent presentation. Our presenters today are like timing very well. So any